Hi everyone, Heather here with astrologywithheather.com, and I am back with another forecast. And this week I've decided to do something a little bit different. We have Mars moving into the sign of Aries, which is a significant, huge event because Mars will be transiting the sign of Aries for the next 6 months of our lives due to the retrograde cycle of Mars. And so in this video, I wanted to cover not just the weekly forecast, but really I want to get into what Mars in Aries is going to look like for us for the next 6 months ahead. I'm not going to get into excruciating detail with this because we'll do that as we go along, week by week in my normal weekly forecast, but I wanted to give you guys a general overview of what this energy is going to look like and how it's going to impact all of us personally. This is, again, a big, big deal. Mars is in its home sign where it's super, super strong. It's going to move retrograde. It's going to be very close to the Earth. It's going to be very volatile. And it's also going to be going back and forth in square with the stellium of planets, Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn in the sign of Capricorn. And so this is going to be reactivating a really intense energy that we first experienced in the spring of 2020. And it's going to be lasting from now all the way through to January 6th of 2021. And so this is something that we're going to have to get used to. We're going to have to learn how to navigate and deal with. It's kind of a big deal. And so even though, yes, Venus is stationing this week, and that's a big deal too. Venus will be moving direct. We can get some forward momentum going when it comes to issues involving beauty, aesthetics, self-worth, relationships, of course. And that's going to be, a wonderful thing. We also have to really take into account what's most important here and what's going to be the most impactful. And yes, that Venus station is hugely impactful, but Mars is going to be doing something here that we really need to be paying attention to. Last time we had Mars hitting this stellium was when it came into a conjunction again at the start of this year, when we had the stellium in Capricorn with the the Pluto Saturn conjunction coming exact, and then the Jupiter Pluto conjunction coming exact, Saturn moving into Aquarius and Mars hitting all of that. And that's really when we had the COVID-19 situation really escalate. There was a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of people taking things to extremes. And I think we're going to see a little bit more of that coming into the fall. That doesn't necessarily mean we'll have a full-on lockdown situation or that everything will play out in the exact same way as it did before. This is kind of the next phase, and so it's going to be different, but it still is going to be disruptive, I think, on a global scale and on a personal scale, because again, we're going back and forth over this energy for 6 months. Mars in Aries is going to bring about a time period for us where we are going to launch in and feel fired up to initiate something new in our lives. Anytime Mars transits a certain area of our chart, it indicates an energy of initiation, of feeling really passionate, really energized. It indicates a period of forward momentum where we want to start a lot of new things. However, when Mars goes retrograde, we have to kind of take a step back, be a bit more passive, and reinforce the things that we pushed forward with, that we initiated during that period when Mars was direct. And then when Mars goes direct again, that's when we feel fired up to really push it through, to finalize these things that we initiated, to maybe even start some new things that came up when Mars was retrograde. And so we're going to be kind of going back and forth over that energy. However, this particular Mars cycle or Mars transit is going to be a little bit different because, again, squaring that stellium, right? And so we have Mars squaring the Pluto-Jupiter conjunction. Pluto and Jupiter, that's going to have us overdoing everything. We're going to be like super passionate, super fired up, taking things to extremes when it comes to what we are going to be moving forward with. That Saturn energy, though, is going to prevent us from going all in. And so we're going to feel like we want to jump all in. We want to do this all at once. We need to push forward. We need to expand on something that we are deeply and truly desiring, that we are deeply and truly passionate about, that feels connected to our core, to our truth. However, Saturn's causing us to slow down. It's putting up roadblocks and barriers. It's forcing us to take the slow way and to do things the right way rather than the fast way. And that's always frustrating when you have Mars square Saturn, but this is going to be a prolonged Mars square Saturn, and it's going to be especially frustrating because of this psychological need to push into something where we feel like we have to blow it up now. It just needs to expand. It needs to happen. We need to focus all of our energy and attention on something, and we just can't quite get it going because Saturn's saying no. Saturn's saying wait. Saturn's saying stop. Saturn's saying, hey, is this really the right way to go about doing this thing? Are you using the right methodology? Are you following the rules? Are you taking small measured steps, or are you just plunging in all at once without thinking things through? That's what Saturn's going to call into question. And, there might be actual physical blockages that come from people in positions of authority or certain structures or institutions in our lives that prevent us from making the thing happen that we want to happen. And it's going to come around multiple times. Like, we're going to push into something and then stop, push into something again and then stop. And so that's going to be a continued energy and a continued frustration where we get this momentum, we want to push, and then all of a sudden we think that we're finally going to make it happen, and a new roadblock comes in. And so that Mars retrograde period is going to be a period of reevaluating, why are we getting these blockages? What is it that we need to do on a day-to-day level in small little doses to push through and to make this happen? And, kind of what does that look like? The other thing with Mars retrograde is that it impacts everybody a little bit differently. So if you're somebody who has a lot of martial energy, if you're a very strong Aries energy or a very strong Scorpio, maybe you have Mars as the ruler of your chart, maybe you're an Aries or a Scorpio rising, you're used to kind of pushing forward and getting your way and acting on your passions and impulses. And that's something that, for most of you would work well for you and would come naturally. When Mars is in retrograde, you're going to have an easier time just sitting back and passively watching and playing the observer role as opposed to jumping in and, going into things full force. If you are somebody who tends to be more passive and you have a hard time initiating or standing up for yourself, then Mars retrograde might cause you to express yourself a little bit differently, to initiate those actions kind of more haphazardly, to stand up for yourself, or to pick those fights that maybe you've been avoiding because, maybe it's become necessary that you have to say something, that you have to put your foot down, that you have to become argumentative in one way or another in order to get what you want, right? And so you can find that could be a part of this energy as well. I will say one thing about the Mars retrograde. While Mars is in retrograde, this is a time where you should not be initiating anything where you want to sort of win. Whoever initiates the action is going to be on the losing side of things. And so if you are entering into a court battle, if you are initiating an important project, if you are initiating anything that's in competition with somebody, you're not going to win. So you don't want to do that during the Mars retrograde. You want to do before or after. The other thing too with the Mars retrograde is that this isn't a good time to launch into something that you want to have a lot of power behind. A lot of things that you initiate during this time, especially Mars ruled things, so competitions, right? Arguments, fights, disputes, but also anything involving machinery, anything involving, weaponry, I guess, because that's a martial energy. Anything involving this sort of energy of aggression and physicality and potentially anger, combativeness, competitiveness, even things like if you're doing some sort of like renovation project or anything that involves tools or heavy machinery, these things can be very martial. Elective surgeries, obviously surgery is ruled by Mars, surgeons are ruled by Mars, scalpels and pointy objects are ruled by Mars. And so obviously if you have to have surgery and it's like an emergency or something like that, do it. This is the time that it's happening and that's when it has to happen. But I'm just saying in general, like general rules of thumb with the Mars retrograde, not the best time period to start these things. And so Mars going retrograde, that's going to last from September 9th all the way through to November 5th. And even if you initiate things prior to this time, they might need some retraction or some reinforcement during the time when Mars is in retrograde. And so that's something to just make note of. And just be aware that you might be pushing too hard too fast. You might come into blockages. You're going to have to go back and forth with some things. And, it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen all at once. So these are things that definitely require consideration with the Mars energy. So, that's kind of the gist of it. Mars, yes, is very strong in Aries. We're going to feel very lit up, very ambitious over these next couple of months. And so that's going to be a part of this. And while Mars is direct, absolutely, you can start things. You can initiate. You can, act on your ambitions. Just know that you're going to have to make room for adjustment, and you're going to have to plan for the fact that, yeah, you want things the way that you want them, and you want them right now with that Mars and Aries energy, but it's not necessarily going to happen that way. It's going to be a kind of prolonged, dragged out sort of situation. And as long as you're okay with that, maybe if you have a little bit more of like receptive earth and water energy, that feminine energy in your chart, that's okay for you. But if you're somebody who's more fiery or even has a lot of air energy, that masculine energy, this is going to be a little bit more challenging in terms of needing to hold back and coming up against these blockages that you won't be able to overcome all at once. It's just not going to be a thing for most people. So that's what we're looking at here. 6 months of this. I do think that we're going to get a lot accomplished. And it's going to, even though it feels like it's going to be dragging out and it's not going to be happening at our own pace or on our own timelines, in the grand scheme of things, when we look back at it, it's going to be like, wow, we initiated something, we created something, and this is something that's long withstanding because we went back and forth, because we took the time, because we had to overcome some challenges and go back and reinforce some things. And that'll be true for everybody individually in their own way. I'm not going to focus as heavily on the Mars retrograde in this forecast. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but I'm primarily going to be looking at the energy of that Mars square to the stellium in Capricorn, because that's going to be the thing that's going to really be standing out, where it's like we are passionate, we are lit up, we have really honed in on what we desire, and we're ready to make it happen. But Saturn has some other plans, and so that's where we're going to be experiencing a lot of the action and a lot of the potential frustrations too. So you want to be aware of that. Forewarned is forearmed, and just know that you're going to require some adjustment. It's pretty much as simple as that. And so before we get into the forecast here for all 12 signs, I just wanted to make a couple of quick announcements. The main one being that for those of you who aren't already aware, I do have a full in-depth foundational astrology video course. It's a self-paced course that's over 16 hours long with video and all sorts of additional supplemental materials, PDFs, worksheets, things like that, that takes you from start to finish. So if you are a beginner in astrology and you're ready to jump in and to learn astrology and to do it, at your own pace, around your own schedule, this is definitely a great course for you to check out. The link is down in the description below. I worked very hard on honing in on this course as I worked with live classes actually around this material over the past 3 years. And so I'm very proud of this course. I think you guys will love it. And so I want to just remind you guys that it's out there for those who want to learn astrology. And so you can find that down in the description below. And I also have a relocation astrology course. A lot of you guys have been asking about relocation recently. I think it's the time right now where people are like, if I can travel, I want to get out a little bit. And even if you can't travel, a lot of people are thinking about relocating. Where do you want to lay down roots? Because we're going to be kind of locked in to whatever it is we're creating over the course of these next couple of months in this summer. And especially when it comes to our location, I think that this is the time. If you want to rearrange, now's the time to do it. So I have a full webinar. It's my most popular course, all about relocation astrology. You can find that also down in the description below. And one of my students, Justin Vasilivas, has been taking on some of my relocation clients because I just can't do all of these readings myself, and he's excellent at relocation. And so if you're looking for a relocation reading, I highly recommend checking him out. The link for that is down in the description below as well. All right, so let's get into my forecast for all 12 signs, beginning with Aries and Aries rising. And so I'm going to scooch this over a little bit here. For Aries and for Aries rising, so the main energy here is going to be impacting you the most, especially if you're an Aries rising, sun or moon, anywhere between 15 and 28 degrees. This is going to be a very intense energy that's going to be going back and forth over you, over your ascendant sun or moon. And so you're going to be feeling personally fired up about something that you want to create for yourself. This is an important time over the next 6 months to be very careful with your health, and especially when it comes to the way that you move about the world. Your physical body is going to be more reactionary, more inflamed, more and more susceptible to injury. And so you want to just be careful about the way that you're moving about the world. Take your time when it comes to any action that you're taking physically. You don't want to be rushing through things, even though you might be feeling really fired up and really ready, and you might feel like you want to rush around, and very physically you probably will be rushing around, stubbing your toes, jamming your fingers. Cuts and bruises are very more likely while Mars is transiting the sign of Aries over these next couple of months, and these things will slow you down a little bit. And so if you're like training for a marathon or something, take your time, make sure that you're not rushing through things, make sure that you're aware of your environment, because you don't want to end up injuring yourself and setting yourself back when it comes to your physical body. The other thing too is that anything that supports your own personal goals and volition, you're going to be wanting to push forward with over the next 6 months. You're going to be feeling much more argumentative, much more headstrong. You're already in Aries, so you want what you want when you want it, and this is going to be like that tenfold. And this is also going to be about you connecting with something that you truly, deeply desire when it comes to your career and public reputation. With that Pluto-Jupiter conjunction coming on and off in your 10th house, it's like you've been honing in on what your soul is connected with, what you want at a core level when it comes to your career path and when it comes to your public standing and what you put out there into the world. And you're going to feel ready over the next 6 months to jump into something, to dive into something, to initiate something. You're going to be feeling very ambitious when it comes to connecting with those deep desires, those big goals and plans for your future. But there are going to be some blockages. There are going to be some hangups there. And so Saturn's going to cause you to have to slow things down. There might literally be bosses and authority figures that tell you, slow your roll. No, you can't do that. No, you can't get that promotion. There's something here telling you no, when on the inside, it feels like, yes, I want this. And it's going to be frustrating, but it's going to be more about having to take a step back and regroup and reinforce those plans, reinforce those goals, reinforce those ambitions, re-solidify who you are and what you want and your direction in life before jumping in, before moving forward, and take smaller steps to get there, right? This is a marathon, not a race, kind of to go back talking about training for a marathon. Think about this as like a marathon and not a sprint. And so you want to make sure that you're pacing yourself and that you're moving into your big goals and plans for the future on a personal level and on a career level in those small and measured steps. And by the end of the race, by the time we hit January, you're going to be there, right? It's just that you can't get there all at once. And so it might be that you have to just take on a new responsibility at work or pivot just slightly in the direction that you want to move into bit by bit, day by day until you get there. It's probably not going to be a major overhaul. And if it is, it's going to be due to some sort of conflict or difficulty that will probably stem from you creating it. So you want to make sure that you, again, do it the right way. You don't cause a huge ruckus or a lot of problems for yourself, because that's most likely going to be coming from you if that is the case. I also want to mention that Venus is stationing direct right now, so you're going to be getting some forward momentum when it comes to communication, connections with your neighbors, anything involving short distance travel, vehicles, community, things of that nature. You'll get some forward momentum going and things will start to move again for you there. Oh, and I should mention too, just going back to Aries, during that retrograde period, which lasts again from September 9th through November 15th. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but that's going to be a time when you're going to be okay with taking a passive approach and just observing and sort of reinforcing things. So if it feels frustrating leading up to that point, especially in August and early September with all of these Saturn squares or Mars squares to, Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn, then just know that it'll feel a lot easier to kind of take that role when Mars goes direct. And so it'll come a little bit more naturally to you. You won't feel like you need to fight for everything, and it won't feel like you're struggling quite so much with that. All right, and for Taurus rising, Mars is actually going to be retrograding in your 12th house. So that's kind of an interesting one. There's like a lot of subconscious rage and a lot of subconscious frustration going on. There could be something that demands your immediate attention involving 12th house institutions, and that could be like hospitals, monasteries, ashrams, spiritual retreat centers, rehabilitation facilities, prisons, places that are sort of hidden away from the world. That could be a center of focus over the next 6 months, where there's something there that demands your attention that you need to initiate. This is also an energy where you might want to initiate something new involving a spiritual practice or a creative pursuit or something that's going on behind the scenes. This could also be an energy where there could be hidden enemies that are working against you that might come out of the woodwork, and you might realize that people who you didn't even think were paying attention to you are maybe talking behind your back or doing something a little sinister. So you might have to kind of go back and forth and battle with that, not in a very overt, aggressive way, I would say, but in a way where you're addressing it very slowly, methodically, without sort of confronting someone outright, especially during that Mars retrograde period, which again lasts from September 9th through November 15th. The energy here of wanting to jump in and initiate something, this is actually going to be a little bit more favorable for you, especially if you are a Taurus sun, moon, or rising in particular. With your rising sign near the end degrees of Taurus, I would say really anywhere from like 22 to 30 degrees, you'll be feeling this, actually 20 to 30 degrees. It's kind of a wider range because this is a wide range of time we're talking about here. But you'll be feeling this in a more positive way in terms of you're just really wanting to align your desires, your actions, your direction in life and the way that you show up in the world with your integrity, with your belief systems. Your beliefs are transforming. Your beliefs that frame this reality when it comes to your religious and spiritual ideologies, your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, and the way that frames your experience here. And you're really wanting to align yourself with your integrity, and that's going to be a big push, and that's going to be something that you feel this really subconscious urge, like I have to do this. I can't be this person anymore. I can't, I'm a fraud. I'm not showing up as I should be. I'm not walking the walk, right? I believe all of these things, but am I aligned with that? Am I aligned with my integrity? That's going to be the biggest source of frustration that you're going to be going back and forth with over the next 6 months with that Mars and Aries energy. This is also going to be more of a passive-aggressive energy for Taurus than a lot of the other signs, just because it's happening in your 12th house. And so just be aware of that. And especially, it'll be kind of passive-aggressive when it's direct, but especially when it's in retrograde, you might be subconsciously acting out and behaving passive-aggressively toward other people who expect you to behave in ways that are not in alignment with your true values, your moral and ethical standards. And so, just kind of be aware of that. And when it does come up, that could create conflict and blockages if you're not aware of where this anger is stemming from and you're not expressing it fully or appropriately. So something to just kind of keep in mind over the next 6 months. All right. Oh, and I should go back. And so just because this is also for this week, I do want to mention that Venus is stationing to go direct the middle of this week, and this is going to be happening in your second house, which is the house of money. And so matters pertaining to money and material possessions, you can start to get some forward momentum with that again beginning this week. All right, for Gemini and for Gemini rising, Mars is going to be transiting your 11th house for the next 6 months. And so the 11th house is the house of friends and social networks and group activities and people that we surround ourselves with by choice. This could bring up this need to initiate something. So maybe you want to initiate some sort of group project, or maybe even form some sort of new group or association. Maybe you're feeling really fired up to get out there and do something with your friends. And, maybe that opportunity will actually start to arise, even if you are in an area that right now is currently having a lot of restrictions on that. However, coming into like August, September, and especially during the retrograde period, September through November, you might find that the restrictions are back on, or there's something maybe even external that's controlling you, that's outside of the lockdown and things like that, that it might be suppressing you or preventing you from following your ambitions, initiating what you want to initiate, going out and doing exciting new things with your friends. This is kind of an energy of wanting to do something new. And if you're not able to do that, it's going to feel very, very frustrating for you. And so that's just something to kind of keep in mind here. This is something where if you do want to initiate new contacts, if you want to do some sort of networking because you're feeling really ambitious and goal-oriented and you want to spread the word about your business or whatever it is that you want to do, even if it's just you wanting to get out there, get some action, make some new friends, socialize a bit more as a Gemini, this is something that you can start to figure out how to do in small bits and pieces, but there will be blockages along the way, and those blockages can come from a place of power struggle. They can come from a place of outside authority coming in and holding something over your head and saying no. And so you're going to have to find ways to work around that and to reinforce your connections with your friends and the people that are truly aligned with what you want and desire for yourself, and the people that you truly want to be aligned with, because there's that connection there and there's that integrity in those relationships. You're going to have to figure out kind of new ways to reinforce those relationships over the course of the next 6 months, and especially that period between September and November. This could also be a lot of arguments and disputes involving friendships and separations. That's another thing with Mars. Mars rules separation. And so this could be you separating from a group of friends. And you could just jump in and say, I don't want to hang out with you guys anymore. I don't agree with what you're doing. We're not, lining up. And that could cause some disputes, some arguments. And you might actually have to go back and revisit that if you do that, sooner than later, because that Mars retrograde is going to have you kind of going back and reinforcing those boundaries in some way. The other thing too is that Pluto and Jupiter are really aligning you with what you truly need, want, and desire when it comes to issues involving joint finances, insurance, inheritance. It could even be you figuring out like your will and things like that, because it does involve death in that 8th house energy. And so it could be you figuring out what you want for after your death. Where are your possessions going to go? Something along those lines, where you're wanting to distribute things, in a certain way, and there's maybe some blockages to that, or you're realizing that your friends are not who you thought they were, and maybe they don't deserve a piece of the pie or whatever it is. And there could also be you feeling really ambitious and driven towards some sort of investment or some sort of financial opportunity. And so it's kind of like wanting to go all in, wanting to jump in there and just do it, and coming against some roadblocks that will not let you initiate in the way that you desire. And so you're going to have to kind of take a step back, reevaluate, and reinforce those goals and plans before moving forward. All right. And then for Cancer and for Cancer rising, Mars is retrograding in your 10th house of career and public reputation. You are going to start feeling really fired up about your goals and ambitions, and you need goals and ambitions. Oh my goodness. If you don't have goals and ambitions set up for yourself and set in motion over the next 6 months, you're going to feel super frustrated, super depleted, maybe even a little bit depressed. So this is a time to really take stock of what your goals are for yourself. What do you want want to accomplish and achieve when it comes to your career, or when it comes to what it is that you're putting out there in the world, even if you don't necessarily work. This is a time to think about, what are you putting out there? How are you contributing to the world at large collectively? And to create some goals and plans and actionable items that you can work toward over the next 6 months. These things should be small and measured. They shouldn't be like all at once. I'm just going to completely overhaul my career and just jump into something brand new right now. Because if you do that, there's going to be setbacks. There are going to be blockages. It's going to be much more frustrating than what you might want it to be. And so taking your time and doing things the right way and not the fast way is going to be the best approach here. If you launch into something, June, July, or August, you might have to kind of backtrack and reevaluate and reinforce those things come September and through November. There's also going to be this energy of really wanting to jump forward into your new career goals and plans, but somebody who you care about, or somebody close to you, or maybe even somebody who you're in partnership in business, might be blocking you. It's like you really know what you truly desire and what you want for yourself, and that Saturn energy is saying, no, not yet. No, you can't do it this way. No, you have to take into consideration your partner's needs before you take action. The other thing going on here is that, this is a time where you're going to be transforming your relationships. And so you've been really working on since the beginning of this year, focusing on what you truly need, want, and desire, what your soul needs, what you feel deeply connected to in relationship. And, some blockages are going to be coming up that can be quite frustrating to you actually getting there in your partnerships. And this could be romantic partnerships, marriage, but this could also be close friendships, or again, partnerships in business or client relationships. Any important connections are subject to this energy. This could be like a dispute, an argument. This could be kind of like the last straw in a relationship toward the end of this year. And so, it might not turn out the way that you want it to. There might be a separation, or you might need to remove certain people from your life because the blockages are too strong or too thick and it feels too heavy. If you are wanting to restructure and reinforce the relationship and overcome things, it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's not going to happen all at once. So do not expect instant results. This is going to take a lot of labor on your part and on the part of your partner. And if you're not up for the challenge, if you're not in it for the long term, if you're not ready to make those slow, steady efforts to reach that goal of having that ideal relationship, that deep intimacy, then, it might not work out. So that's what's going on for Cancer and for Cancer rising. But there is a potential for you to get there. So just know that it can come and that it can happen, but you have to put in the work. Like, that's a big thing. You have to put in the work, and your partner has to be on board with that too. Venus going direct is going to be happening in your 12th house, by the way. So this is a good time for rest and reprieve and doing things that feel good behind the scenes. And so that's going to be coming back online this week as well. All right. And then for Leo and for Leo rising. All right, so for Leos, this Mars retrograde energy is happening in your 9th house. You're probably going to be feeling super restless, super like, I want to get out there and see the world or do something new or explore in a very physical way. This could be you just really craving and needing some sort of adventure. And so over the next 6 months, you're going to be feeling more adventurous. You're going to be feeling more like you want to get out and see the world. And there are going to be things that will be preventing you from actually doing that. Surprise, surprise, right? With everything that's been going on in the world. But I also think that some of these restrictions are coming from you really needing to hone in on what you need, want, and desire on a day-to-day level in your work, in your health, in your daily routines, and also the way that you show up in service of other people. There could be some sort of service that you need to be providing people, or there could be the need to show up and help somebody, and it could even be somebody else's health that's at stake, and you are really focusing in on, helping that person achieve their health goals. Whatever it is that's going on for you on a day-to-day level that you're really focusing on and that you're really working on transforming, that's going to provide some blockages to you being able to get out there and see the world, to have those adventures. even on a mental level, this could be you feeling really ambitious toward wanting to educate yourself or re-educate yourself in some way or pursue some new education goals. And, it might feel like there's a lot of momentum. It might feel like you're deeply passionate about a certain topic and that you really want to integrate this into your daily experience or into your work in some way. And, you might jump in head first and you might have to kind of backtrack. You might have to retreat. You might have to sort of reinforce your goals and plans in that area before moving forward, especially as we come into late summer, early fall. There will be some roadblocks. And a lot of those roadblocks are going to come from your day-to-day busyness. It might be that you launch into a new education program, and it fits, right? The fall is when people start school, and you realize that on a day-to-day level, you just can't handle this extra work. And so maybe you go down to part-time, or you extend that experience, or maybe you have to separate yourself from that new educational pursuit in some way. This could also be you bumping heads with people over different ideologies and belief systems, and feeling like you want to force your will on others when it comes to what you believe, what you feel is morally righteous. And this can cause a lot of issues. So you want to make sure that while Mars is direct, you're not being super headstrong and aggressive about it unless you really want to cause conflict. And when Mars is in retrograde, if you're starting these arguments, you're going to lose. You're going to be on the losing end. Even if you win on an intellectual level, you lose because it's going to cause conflicts that are going to be hard to resolve or that are going to result in some sort of separation. So you want to and also what you feel heated about during that Mars retrograde, September 9th through November 15th, when it comes to your belief systems, your ideologies, those things are going to fizzle out. You're going to be like, why was I so up in arms about this 2 months ago? And why did I cause all these problems? It's one of those things where you might end up regretting it later. So you want to keep a cool head. You want to understand that not everybody views the world in the exact same way as you, and that you can't force your will on others when it comes to their beliefs and ideologies. That's going to be a big part of this energy too. But in terms of if you want to reach your goals and plans for travel, for connections with foreign countries, for publishing even, for educational pursuits, you're going to have to take the slow route. You're going to have to do small, sustainable, measured efforts every single day to reach your long-term goals and plans, and you might have to backtrack and change some things and reinforce what your ambitions are in this area. All right, and then for Virgo and for Virgo rising. So June 27th through January 6th, Mars will actually be retrograding in the sign of Aries, and this is going to be in your 8th house. The 8th house is the house of debt, joint finances, power struggles, other people's money. And it fits with those power struggles, right? Because when people are holding money over your head, when institutions are holding money over your head, you're disempowered in a lot of ways. And so this is a time where there might be something that you feel called to take action on when it comes to paying off a debt. Maybe you feel like today is the day, now is the time, I am paying off my credit cards once and for all. And you want to jump in, you want to do it all at once. And if you do that, that could cause a little bit of a headache. There might be blockages and roadblocks and people saying no, institutions saying no, or the money just might not be there. And so you're going to have to take slow, small, measured efforts every single day to reach those long-term goals and plans financially. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has to involve a debt. It could be an investment. It could be even involving your partner's resources. There could be a separation from some sort of joint financial endeavor or pursuit that, could be a little bit challenging, or it could be you wanting to initiate a really important investment with a partner. And, it doesn't pan out right away, and you realize that you have to take the slow route and really reinforce what you want and figure it out first. This is also you needing to find something that you are deeply and truly intimately passionate about, and to lock in and connect to that, but to realize that you're not going to be able to jump in and do all of your passions right away, that you're going to have to create space for that, and it's going to take a little bit of work. the Pluto-Jupiter conjunction in your 5th house, this has actually been nice for you. This is you really aligning who you are and your direction in life with your deepest passions, your deepest desires, the things that bring you the most joy, and, you know, getting rid of anything that's not that. It's clearing away anything that does not bring you joy. It's kind of like that Marie Kondo, like, does it spark joy? If it doesn't, no, you just throw it out. That's what's been going on for you. But there might be, again, roadblocks involving finances, especially, that might prevent you from sparking that joy, from really aligning yourself on that thing, that one thing that you need to be focusing on. The other thing too with that Mars retrograde in the 8th house is that when Mars goes retrograde, you might have arguments, disputes, even, I mean, it could even be before the Mars goes retrograde, but like legal disputes over financial issues. That could be a part, like a thing, like you could have an outstanding debt and you could end up getting sued or something like that. If they sue you during the Mars retrograde, they'll probably lose. But if you initiate some sort of action against somebody else on a financial level, you'll probably lose. So you want to keep that in mind too, if that's something that you're thinking about doing. And then, yeah, I think that's pretty much, you want to figure out something that you're deeply passionate about and allow that to motivate you moving forward and to reinforce those passions, but just know that it's not going to happen all at once. For Libra and for Libra rising. So for you guys, Mars is going to be retrograding actually in your 7th house, which is the house of relationships. This can bring up a lot of challenge, arguments, disputes, disagreements involving contracts, involving partnerships in business and in, romantic relationships, marriage partnerships, things like that. The best way to use this energy in partnership is to initiate something that you're really feeling fired up and passionate about together, but to understand as a couple that these things are going to take time. And even though you feel ambitious and you feel passionate and it feels right and you want it to happen together right now, that it might take time and it's probably not going to happen all at once. And there are going to be challenges to overcome. There will be obstacles, there will be roadblocks. The other thing too is that this could be an igniting of passion in a relationship. And so if you're feeling like the passion in your partnership has been fizzling out, this is going to really amp that up. But with the positive aspects of that passion, you'll also get the negative. And so you can find that you guys are a little heated, that you're more argumentative, that you're battling each other a little bit more. And so this is a time where you're going to need more space and more independence in your relationship, and your partner might need that as well. There could be arguments, disputes, disagreements that come up involving contracts related to real estate or property. If that happens, just really, you know what you want. You know what you truly need, want, and desire at this point when it comes to your home life, when it comes to your property, when it comes to your place of living, and you're not willing to negotiate. You're not willing to have anything but that. However, you're probably not going to get what you want all at once. And so you might have to retreat and take a more passive approach when Mars goes retrograde from September 9th through November 15th, and then move forward into what you truly desire in that area. There could also be a lot of arguments or disputes or disagreements that come up involving family members or people who you live with, and that could be something that you're kind of going back and forth on. You're probably going to be full force speaking your mind when Mars is direct, but when it goes retrograde, you might retreat and take more of a passive approach to it and just kind of take stock of what's going on, look around you, right? Gather your strength for the final battle at the end. But as long as you are approaching this with a level head, if you're using that Libra reciprocity and understanding for other people's needs as well as your own, then you should be able to navigate this. It's just that there's going to be a little bit of an imbalance along the way and some frustration. It could be that you want to lock into some sort of new living situation even. You're like, okay, I'm ready for it. I know what I desire. And Saturn says, nope, wait, you have to take the long route. You have to take your time. It's going to require a little bit more effort than that. And so it might slow you down a little bit, but by the end of the year, you will accomplish your goals, and it's going to feel like, oh my goodness, I just overcame all of this and look what I created. So there's hope and light at the end of the tunnel. It's just that you're going to have to work at it. It's going to take some work. All right, and then for Scorpio and for Scorpio rising. So Mars is actually going to be transiting your 6th house, which is the house of health, work, and daily routines. Lucky Scorpio rising. This is not my favorite transit in terms of like Mars, because the 6th house is a difficult house. And so your day-to-day reality is going to feel more intense. You're going to feel much busier. You're going to be feeling like you're having to rush through things. This could involve arguments, disputes, separations with coworkers or employees that could come up for you, or the feeling like you need to initiate something involving maybe hiring new employees or involving an important work-related relationship or a relationship with a coworker. This could be you wanting to initiate new important projects related to your work, but having to kind of take a step back, slow down, and do things the slow way and not the slow and steady way, the right way and not the fast way. This is also you figuring out what you truly need, want, and desire in communication, and in your day-to-day relationships with people that you come across on a day-to-day level in your community, in your immediate environment, in your neighbors, in your neighborhood, and working really hard to get there, but having to, again, take the slow route. This could be you figuring out what you really desire for your business when it comes to marketing or education or some sort of new educational pursuit, either you teaching or you taking some sort of new certification program or something like that, and feeling like this is it. I am so passionate about this. I really need to jump all in, and realizing that it's going to take more time. It's going to take more effort. You're going to have to work a little bit harder at it, and maybe even take a step back and look at things more objectively before you jump all in. This could be you having to really reevaluate your health and your health goals. This is a good time to pay attention to your health, especially when it comes to your stress levels, your adrenal hormones. That's that Mars energy. And so on a day-to-day level, if you are feeling way too stressed, way too overwhelmed, like there is so much going on and that you can't handle it, this is going to impact your health. And so especially when Mars goes retrograde from September 9th through November 15th, this is a time to take a step back. This is a time to reevaluate. Like, can I do all of this? Should I be doing all of this? Do I want to be doing all of this? How is this taking a toll on my nervous system? How is this affecting my mental health? That's going to be really a big part of that reevaluation phase. This could also be the need to jump in and initiate something involving an act of service where you're going in and helping other people. This could also be something that demands your immediate attention involving animals or pets, because that's a 6th house energy as well. And so that's what's going to be going on for Scorpio for the next 6 months. A lot of action, a lot of energy. You're going to be busy, like busy. But luckily that Mars retrograde allows you to kick back a little bit and almost step away from it so you can reevaluate what's going on. And that's a long period, September through November. So that's where, yeah, you're busy, but it doesn't feel as strenuous and you feel like, all right, I can handle this. I don't have to keep pushing. All right, for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. So this energy with Mars retrograde, this is actually a nice one. So pretty much most Sagittarius people, all Sagittarius people will have this in trine with their ascendant at some point. And especially if you are a Sagittarius sun, moon, or rising, with your sun, moon, or rising sign between 15 and 28 degrees, you're going to be feeling this in a very positive way. You're going to be feeling fired up to do something that you are deeply passionate about. This is you taking the initiative to jump into something, to start something new related to your hobbies, your ambitions, the things that bring you joy in life, and to connect that more to your experience and your direction, your goals in life. You could be feeling fired up around a project involving children, or around your relationship with your children, or wanting to initiate something new with your children if you have any. But this is really you feeling super fired up and super passionate. Like, I want to do the things that I love because I love to do them, and I'm not going to let anything stop me. However, finances might stop you. And so you've also been honing in on what you truly need, want, and desire when it comes to your financial situation, the way that you create resources, and also your possessions. Like, what do you want to have? What do you want your material world to look like? And, in some ways, that those goals and those desires and those ambitions might prevent you from fully locking into the thing that brings you joy. And you might realize that you're going to have to move into this much more slowly and much more methodically than what you would ideally you want, because you're going to be feeling like, this is it, I'm lit up, I'm doing it. But you're going to have to backtrack. There are going to be blockages. There are going to be times when you're going to be facing additional challenges where somebody or something might be telling you no, and that's okay. You'll get there, but slow and steady wins the race with this one, and making sure that your financial situation is taken care of and that it's settled before you just launch into something crazy all willy-nilly. That's going to be an important step. So especially when Mars is retrograde between September 9th and November 15th, that's going to be a big focal point there, reinforcing that energy, reinforcing that financial situation, and reinforcing and reevaluating and making sure that this is what you truly desire, what you're truly passionate about before you jump in. All right, and then for Capricorn and Capricorn rising. So for Capricorns, this Mars retrograde is happening in your 4th house, which is the house of home, family, and property. And so for you guys, this is a time where you're going to be feeling really fired up about initiating something involving your home, your family, your property. You might have an important project you want to pursue. You might want to launch into some sort of renovation project or something like that. You might be feeling very ambitious and goal-oriented in the home and very busy, like restless. The next 6 months, you're not going to be able to sit still at home. You're going to be feeling so restless and so anxious if you're not doing something physical in the home almost constantly. And so that's going to be a part of this energy too, just so you're aware of that. But this is a time where you might want to make a big move. You might want to launch into an important project with your family or some sort of family related goal. You might want to even add a new member to your family, but there's going to be something stopping you, and that something that's stopping you is going to be you wanting to align yourself with what you truly need, want, and desire when it comes to your direction in life, before you jump in and kind of potentially make a mess of things. And so you have to take into consideration your truth and what you know is right for you before you jump in, before you move forward. This is also a time with this Jupiter-Pluto energy squaring the Mars in your 4th house. This is also a time where you could potentially come into some conflict with family members, with your parents, or with people who you live with. And there could be some arguments and disputes that come up that might not get resolved very quickly, and so there might be some blockages or some issues there. There might be something that demands your attention related to your family, that you have to kind of jump in and sort of aggressively try to remedy, but it might take more time than you might want it to. And so, you're going to have to delay things or slow things down, take things the slow way and not the fast way, in order to make sure that you're creating a really solid foundation for what it is that you're feeling ambitious about or wanting to initiate involving your home, property, or family. And so this could be you wanting to make a move, and something comes up and you realize that this move that you are about to jump into all headstrong and fast, that this is not necessarily in alignment with what you truly desire, with your core truth. And so you take a step back, you reevaluate, you take that Mercury or Mars retrograde time period between September 9th and November 15th to reinforce those desires, to reinforce your foundations in your home before you move into something new. And if you do that, you can actually have like a lot of really great accomplishments that come out of this, but it's going to take some time. All right. And then Aquarius and Aquarius rising. So for Aquarius, this Mars retrograde is happening in your 3rd house, which is the house of communication. This is going to be a 6-month period where you're going to have a flood of communication coming in. It's going to be like constant, like you're going to be constantly feeling very action oriented when it comes to emails, text messages, phone calls, information that's coming in. There could be information that comes in that causes you to really feel like you're fired up and you need to take action on it right here, right now. But there's something going on behind the scenes that might prevent you from doing that. For Aquarius, this is a little bit of a nicer transit. This is actually Mars trining your descendant, especially, if you're an Aquarius rising. This is going to be you feeling really ambitious and fired up to initiate something in relationship with somebody else. And that thing that you're initiating over the next 6 months together as a couple or as a team, it doesn't have to be a couple, but as a team, these things can actually be very fruitful and produce very positive results, but you're going to have to go back and forth with it a little bit. You're going to have to take some time, especially, in the fall, to reevaluate and reinforce the thing that you're initiating now and into the next couple of months. And so this is you feeling like, I feel excited and ambitious and lit up about this idea that we have together, and we're going to jump in and we're going to do it. And, something might come up where you have to slow your roll. You have to take a step back, you have to reevaluate and reinforce those plans. But once you move forward, you're going to be unstoppable. This is like a really great energy for that. You might feel more argumentative in your normal day-to-day conversations, especially while you have that Pluto-Jupiter energy. You might feel like really sticking to your guns. You might feel very passionate about everything that you think and everything that you say and all of your ideas, to the point where it can be a little too direct or a little bit overkill. And so that can pose challenges for you. And so I would say the biggest challenge for Aquarius is going to be in communicating in a way that is direct but not forceful and not abrasive, where you're going to be kind of putting people off. So, if there are issues in communication, sometimes it can be coming from the outside, but sometimes it can be coming from you. This could also be you wanting to jump in and initiate something involving a short-term travel plan, involving a new educational pursuit, involving a vehicle or the purchase of a vehicle. If that's the case, just know that it's going to take a little bit more time than you might want it to. If you launch in and purchase a new vehicle, you might have to go back and do some repairs like in a couple of months, or you might have to kind of go back and, reevaluate this decision and change something. And so, yes, there's the energy behind it, but just know that it's going to require a little extra work in some way in order for you to get what you want. And then, you might actually jump into an educational pursuit that you feel really passionate about, and it might get shut down, or it might you might come into some sort of issue or challenge or delay that sets you back a little bit. And so you might have to kind of take a step back, reevaluate, reinforce what you're doing before you move forward, or maybe even make changes. And so that's part of this energy as well. And then finally, for Pisces and Pisces rising, Mars is going to be in your second house of finances. And so over the next 6 months, you're going to be feeling really fired up about making important purchases, about saving, about spending money. You might be spending money very, very impulsively and haphazardly at times. And then you might be feeling the brunt of that. You might have to, endure some financial setbacks. You might have to wait on things, or there might be delays in even paying your bills and doing basic things that you need to do financially because of the impulsivity. And so if you jump in too hard, too fast into a major purchase or some sort of financial deal over the next couple of months, then September through November, you might have to backtrack. You might experience delays and hardships. You might have to reevaluate. And that's going to be an important time to reinforce your financial situation and to take a more passive approach to your finances and just kind of observe all you have and what's going on before moving forward and jumping into something. Even if you feel super passionate, even if you feel like you're ambitious and you're just fired up and you need to initiate or you need to buy that thing right now, you might have some challenges around that. And so just making sure that you're really thinking things through and that you're taking the right steps before you jump in, and you're doing things the right way and not the fast way, that's going to be really, really important. There's also something that also this energy in your 11th house, which is the house of friends and groups of people that you surround yourself with by choice. That's been going on for quite some time, where you've been really deeply reassessing and reevaluating your friendships and letting go of any connections, especially on a group level, that no longer serve you, that are not in alignment with what you truly need, want, and desire. This is you expanding on your friendships that are truly there for you, that are truly deep, that are truly intimate, that are truly loyal and trustworthy, that are there for the long haul, and cutting out anyone that is not that. And so this could be a time period where there's some sort of argument or dispute that comes up, or you have to revisit old disputes from relationships that you thought were done. And, especially during that Mars retrograde period, September 9th through November 15th, that can become a very prominent energy. It could also be that you want to jump in and you want to do something when it comes to making a big purchase or saving some money for something really important, or restructuring your finances in some way. And your friends are preventing preventing you from doing that, or at least their opinions maybe are preventing you from doing that. And so you have to kind of take stock of like, is their input valuable? Do they have something here? Or, you know, is this unnecessary? Do I need to like shut that out? And so that could be a part of this energy too. Mars also is an energy that rules separation. And so this could be you separating from a source of income, or separating from an account of some kind, or some sort of financial situation. And so that could be part of this too. That could be good, or it could be a little bit of a setback. But just know that, you know, when everything is said and done, this is going to loosen up some energy so you can really pursue your goals and ambitions financially moving forward. And so there can be a little bit of a clearing away. Yeah. And you're going to be feeling, very fired up. There's like something, probably like for a lot of you, a major purchase. It's like, I need to buy this now. Now is the time to act. And then something might come in from the outside and say, nope, not yet. Slow your roll, take your time, make sure that this is the right decision. It could feel very, very frustrating when that happens, but just know that it's for a reason. Saturn wants you to do it the right way and not rush into something. And if you do it all haphazardly, there can be consequences. So you want to make sure that you're really taking into account the whole picture before you move forward. All right. And so that is my forecast for all 12 signs. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked the video and you thought that it had value, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and share it with your friends if you feel like it could be helpful to them in some way. And thank you again. I will see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.